the last segment, we encountered several suggestions from Aristotle that the state could be useful for harnessing the information and knowledge of large groups of people. In this segment, we will consider some more modern suggestions building on these ideas. In her excellent recent book, Democratic Reason, Politics, Collective Intelligence, and the Rule of the Many, Hélène Landemore, a political theorist at Yale, discusses and develops several of these suggestions regarding the epistemic virtues of democracy, of democratic states in particular. So she identifies two significant strands of epistemic arguments for democracy. She understands democracy as ruled by many people rather than by just one person or a few people. So the first strand she focuses on the epistemic value of talking, of deliberation, argument, reasoning together to figure something out. So part of the thought here might be related to the Aristotelian feast idea that we talked about in the last segment, that we all bring something to the table. If that's true, then we need some way for each of us to be able to offer our input to the group, and for each of us to be heard. So in particular, there may need to be affirmative steps taken to make this possible. And there are questions about how it could be possible in a large group. So epistemic arguments about the value of the state focus on what we might call the information environment of a community. Is there good information available? Do people have access to it? Are there obstacles and misinformation being introduced into the information environment? Are there venues in which people can engage with each other to process the information they encounter and share with each other the reasons they hold the views that they do, try to explain themselves to each other? So a significant recent development in political theory is the focus on what's called deliberative democracy, a tradition that highlights the role that reason-giving, giving reasons to other people, explanation, explaining ourselves to other people, and deliberation should play in democratic practice. So this tradition has been developed by Amy Gutman, Dennis Thompson, and Joshua Cohen, among others, and it argues that democracy is not just about giving each person a vote and counting up the votes, but is also about how we talk and engage with each other about what we as a political community should do. So this might seem like a good thing to do, maybe even something that we're morally required to do if the law is going to be imposed on people. So I'll talk more about this in the section on autonomy, where we talk a little bit about political legitimacy. But there's also recent formal work demonstrating that large, cognitively diverse groups that share reasons and work together do better at getting the right answer than small numbers of experts. So using formal models, Liu Hong and Scott Page have recently defended the thesis that cognitive diversity trumps ability. A cognitively diverse group will do better than a group of experts with higher ability who are not cognitively diverse. So Hong and Page focus on cognitive diversity, where this means a number of different things. So they identify 4 different kinds of diversity. Diversity of perspectives, where this is about how we represent situations and problems. Diversity of interpretations, where this is about different ways of categorizing perspectives. Diversity of heuristics, where this is about different kinds of problem-solving methods. And diversity of predictive models, where this is about different ways of inferring cause and effect. So these are 4 different dimensions of diversity that they focus on. It's an open question, the extent to which Hong and Page's work in these models will actually work in real-world conditions or will apply to real-world conditions. But there's at least reason to think that an inclusive political system, like a democratic state, will do better in terms of cognitive diversity than an authoritarian system where there's just one person, or a technocratic system where there's just a group of experts who have been chosen for their expertise and, we might worry, are not actually cognitively diverse. They might all use the same kind of heuristics or sort of causal models, for example. And so this might be another important role for the state, to harness the cognitive diversity of the political community, all with an eye towards making the best decisions we can make and towards promoting the general welfare. So here, democratic norms and rights might play a significant role. So certain kinds of political systems will try to protect our information environment in various ways, and democratic systems in particular will enshrine certain kinds of rights and values. So, for example, a political system might do this by protecting freedom of speech, so that we can each say our part, even if it goes against what the majority thinks or what the government is trying to get us to believe. And another kind of important protection is freedom of the press, so that powerful individuals and institutions can be challenged and criticized. A related important protection is that of freedom of association, so that we can meet together to organize, share our ideas, and talk through what we believe. And in some cases, additional kinds of rights will be important, particularly those protecting political equality, making sure that all of our voices are heard, and that some of us don't get to have more influence than others simply for being richer or more powerful. So we'll talk more about that in the section on political equality, but it might be relevant too for creating a good information environment. So one thing it might be important to do is to regulate campaigns, say by offering public financing, or by limiting how much candidates can spend on advertising and campaigning. This will help prevent the wealthiest among us from spending as much as they can to support their own campaigns or the campaigns of their favored candidates. One worry about this focuses on equality, but another worry is that there's a kind of distortion in the information we get if some people get to speak more or more loudly simply because they have greater resources. So here we're just focusing on this kind of concern from a perspective of making decisions in light of the best available information, so that we make decisions that lead to improving the general welfare and promoting happiness. If we all have something to contribute, or if we might have something to contribute in terms of what we know about, even though we're not wealthy, then there will be reasons to want the state to help protect these freedoms and to fight to protect these freedoms against the state overreaching or against state censorship. In the next segment, we'll discuss a different kind of epistemic argument that has been made on behalf of democratic government, one that focuses not on the value of talking and deliberation, but on the value of large numbers and counting.